And if you look at the photos of the sperm on cannabis, human sperm exposed together, they look like little old men, right? They look like all wiggly tails. They've got 4 tails, they've got 4 heads, they've got heads which are all broken and shrunken. And I've said to so many gorgeous young ladies, I said, do you want to make babies with sperm that look like that? And they go, Dr. Rees. And not only did NAHAS show that 20 years ago, but we've now done extensive epidemiological studies, particularly in the USA, looking at cannabidiol, which is often touted as safe, and now delta-8 THC, and found that they're both linked with severe genotoxic outcomes, particularly many cancers and numerous birth defects. So what was found in the lab has now been confirmed in population-wide health studies.
So I want you to define something for me and for the general public out there, genotoxicity. And when you say something is genotoxic, define that for us in layman's terms. What does that mean when you say THC is genotoxic?
Well, it means that cannabinoids are toxic to the genes. Now, think of the genes. The genes is actually a bit like a computer. Okay, if you get a computer, you've got hardware and you've got software. And we've found that the cannabis destroys the hardware, which is the DNA sequence, and the software, which is all the very complicated systems around the genes which control them and turn them on and off. So you can imagine if you've got a new computer and you trash the hardware and you trash the software, you've got spaghetti bolognese. Your computer's useless. And that's what cannabis does to the DNA sequence and the very extensive and very complicated systems which control it, which is called the genome and the epigenome. And the thing is that obviously the genetic material is inherited from multiple generations, but so too is the epigenetic, the software regulation on the genes. Cannabis has a heavy epigenetic footprint. It's got a heavy metabolic footprint as well, because it reduces the cell's ability to produce energy, and that controls the hardware and the software, the genome and the epigenome. And then the 3 things are locked together inside the cell to regulate gene expression between the metabolism, the genes, and the gene controlling system, software, epigenome. They're all interlocked and intercontrolled. And cannabis, if you imagine a stool with 3 legs, cannabis trashes the first, second, and third leg, and what you've got is a mess on the floor, yeah?
What I'm hearing you say is not just impacts to the person who uses it, but anyone down their generational line will experience some sort of harmful effect genetically.
Yes, that's correct, Luke. And we believe that the epigenetic damage goes for 3 or 4 generations. We looked at the distribution of autism across the US and the distribution of cannabis use. And we found that the 2 were closely linked in a space-time analysis. And that was published in a top neuroscience journal. We also showed that it wasn't just an association. People say correlation doesn't always equal causation. But anyway, so we showed that the link was actually causal. There are statistical mathematical techniques and that this was a causal link. And that figures. See, we understand something. Brain development is unbelievably complicated. And I don't have time here to unpack it all, but we know the gene pathways that actually, because the human brain is much bigger compared to our body size than any other animal, we all know that, but we actually know the gene pathways that cause the human brain to grow and to be so huge that the neocortex, the forebrain, we know the pathways that are involved in it. We know vitamin A signaling, retinoic acid signaling is key to that. And there's a system called the SLIT-ROBO system, which is key to development of the exuberant outgrowth of the human forebrain. That's the scientific phrase. And we know that cannabis inhibits retinoic acid gradients. Babies inside their mother are actually woven together by gradients of about 8 major morphogens, which control the formation of all the body systems. And cannabis messes up the woof and the woof, the 3-dimensional loom, the weaving and the knitting process of all this stuff. With retinoic acid gradients, with the SLIT-ROBO system, cannabis inhibits those things. So it blocks the brain development, both directly and through the epigenome, through the software that controls the genes. The CDC said back in 2009 that cannabis is linked with babies born without a brain. The medical name for that is anencephaly. And the risk they gave then was twofold. And there was another paper, CDC 2014, said the same thing. And I just heard figures that came out from the US the last couple of days that they're talking about 3% of children are being diagnosed with autism, which is serious because it's twice as common in males as it is in females. So it's probably about 5% in males across the country. So why are the fire bells not ringing over this? Why are we not calling big cannabis to account in the same way that big tobacco was called to account? None of this makes it. All of this is deal breaker stuff.